idea isn't just that the cell phone with a computer in it is a revolution. That has changed the world in the last few years. But the implication of that idea is it isn't the cell phone. It's the fact that everybody has one in their pocket. It's what happens when the other geniuses look at this thing and realize, oh, I can do this with it. It's not that somebody invents some kind of, latex that can function as a skin repair for burn victims, which is a wonderful thing. Ooh. It's when more people figure out what else you can do with that, things that we can't even think of. But the fact is, all of these innovations and ideas are arising simultaneously, like the mighty oak, right? like a tree with all of these different branches growing off of it in different directions, and it is unforeseen by the acorn that started the whole thing. And now it's all happening at once. So what you were just mentioning with art and cinema and commerce and politics and business and manufacturing, all of these things are changing.
Unless nation states, states pass laws to inhibit that growth in certain sectors. Like that law that said that, individuals for their own protection can't invest less than, I think it was under $1 million or something, right? Like individuals can't be angel investors for their own protection.
Yeah.
So they don't get conned, right? Well, that's a law that maybe in that case in the world of finance inhibits, or individuals can't, contribute to peer-to-peer lending operations. Now they can, on limited levels. But my point is that what would it mean to kind of, and maybe it's already happening. Maybe this is the other part of the podcast might be like, what now for the Sanders movement, that now that he's going to lose. I'm sorry. But what do you do now with that movement? And now maybe part of what you do now with that movement is you take the logic, right, of democratization of all these other industries and you try to bring it into public life, into politics, so that local decisions, state level decisions, all the way up the line are made in more democratic, populist kind of ways. But the problem is that even with that, at some point you have to come back together. You have to form consensus to govern. So you can democratize and do your thing all you want, but do we go too far down the road of doing your own thing so that you can't actually argue with others or collaborate or work with others?
Consensus is the tough thing. I mean, because don't you sometimes get the impression that somebody else has already thought of that? Like when you were saying a few podcasts ago, you were talking about the founding fathers not actually intending for everybody in the country to be voting. They wanted to have sort of like a cadre of elites, sort of handling all of that. I mean, it certainly would make it easier, because it's really hard to move forward when you've got Ted Cruz as a viable presidential candidate. I mean, it's like, wow, that not just him personally, but I mean that mindset is literally lying on its stomach with its arms wrapped around the ankles of progress, screaming at it, hell no, you won't, and it's like, God, that makes it tough. That makes it tough. If you have a good idea that's like, you know what, I've got a great idea. I'm going to build a bridge over this river, and then we'll be able to cultivate the land on the other side. And say, hey, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And you start doing it. And then half of the people in your village literally handcuff themselves to you and to the ground and say, we refuse to build that bridge because God knows what's on the other side of that water. And it's like, okay. And then you all starve to death or something. That seems like a viable possibility. I mean, again, the whole premise of the podcast, which future are we going to choose? All of these things are arising simultaneously, and the question always goes back to, can we handle that? Can we handle that? Not just you and I, but can everybody handle it? Can Ted Cruz handle it? Because him or people like him are going to need to get on board with something, or we're just going to drive straight into an iceberg. We meaning the human race.